Hi, Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine, and this is being much requested by subscribers and patrons and visitors to all the different Now Spinning platforms, is would I do a review of my favourite albums or box sets or releases from 2021. Not done this before, and I know other channels seem to just be able to do their top 10s and top 5s, but I found this really difficult. So what's made the list? And I've done a top 30, and the countdown is from 30 to 1. And I've looked at my list this morning, and I can see straight away that some of the things I'm thinking, why is that ahead of that one? So it's quite fluid, but it's fairly accurate, I feel. Now, how I've picked things are based on stuff I've played a lot during the last 12 months, or stuff that really challenged me. So I'm one of those people that doesn't just like to stick to music that I know I like. I like to try and immerse myself in things that are new to me, that are a challenge, that things I wouldn't normally listen to. And so there are some things in there that might be a surprise to some of you, but hopefully many of you know that my range of music and genres that I like is pretty wide. Now, some albums are kind of in my, or box sets are in my bubbling under list, that they didn't make it, but that doesn't mean that they're not what I class as really good. You know, I've recently viewed Hawkwind, excellent. And some of these I may do separate videos for. The Mastodon album, double, fantastic. Soen album, Swedish prog, you know, is really good. The Whitesnake one I've covered. Blackmore's Night, probably their best album for a long time, but again, didn't make my top 30. I can never pronounce this band's name. H.E.A.T with Portals, which I said I was going to cover, I still haven't yet. The Joe Bonamassa album, excellent. All really good stuff. The vinyl reissue of Roger Glover's Snapshot album, again, great, but didn't make my top 30. Dream Theater I raved about, but it didn't make my top 30. The Vandenberg box set, excellent. 10 Years After, all these I've covered. And Tina Turner, all good stuff. And the one that probably bubbled just outside the outside is Jesus Christ Superstar, the deluxe edition, which I will cover in a separate video. So, here we go. So, the number 30 is Sojourn, which I did a separate video for. Fantastic prog from Finland. I absolutely love this. It's got bits of gong in there and you know, jazz fusion from the Fruits de Mer label, and I absolutely love that. So that's number 30. Next is Benefit by Jethro Tull. I am going to go through every single one of these Super Deluxe Edition Jethro Tull sets, but this is how a box set should be done. You know, great booklet, great content, so worth through, and the pricing is just fantastic. Next is a box set I covered recently, which is Steppenwolf. I only knew them from a few singles and the live album, but this has filled a hole in my rock history, if you like, and as you watch the video elsewhere, but highly recommended. The next one may be a surprise to some of you. It's Toyah on Posh Pop. I went to see Toyah this year. My wife is a big fan, and my expectations were, I didn't have any. I didn't know much about her. I know I've watched the lockdown sessions with her husband Robert Fripp on YouTube, but that was it. And seeing her live, she was fantastic. And basically, the guitarist was a cross between Ronnie Montrose and Tommy Bolin. Seriously, a great player. And she said her album was called Posh Pop, so I just thought, I'm going to give it a go. And you know what? This was the surprise rock album of the year for me. It's a rock album. Robert Fripp plays on it. So there's a picture of them there, and the guitar player, and the musicianship and the songs and the melodies is fantastic. So as I say, it's a surprise rock album of the year. But stream it. You will be surprised. Next is a guy that many of you will be very familiar with, but I wasn't, and this was the first album I've ever heard from him. And this was Walter Trout and the album Ordinary Madness. And what drew me in here was the song Wanna Dance, which I heard on, I think it was Planet Rock. And I love the guitar, loved his vocals. And I'm going to be, you know, exploring Walter's back catalogue a hell of a lot more. So let me know in the comments, all of you Ultra Track fans, you know what I should do next. But if you haven't heard this, then again, stream it. It's fantastic. Now, some of these albums may have just trickled out of the tail end of 2020, but you know, they are new to me. And this one is a case in point. It's Lee Ritenour and Dreamcatcher, which I think was a very early release, late release, last January. And I love Lee Ritenour. I've got, I think, 90% of his output, and he's very prolific. Great jazz fusion guitar player, really, you know, fantastic stuff. Lots of Latin stuff if you're into Carlos Santana, jazz fusion. But this one is just solo guitar, just guitar. And it's a beautiful album, and it's an album that I play a lot if I'm doing, you know, other work and stuff like that. I just have this on, you know, in the background, and it's just beautiful album. So jazz, but excellent. Now the next one is a pure jazz album, and this is Nubia. Sorry, bear with me. Nubia Garcia is a female saxophone player, and this is the album called Source. Now this is stunning. If you're into jazz, modern jazz, when I say modern jazz, I'm not talking about lots of brass instrument stuff. I mean really cool kind of you know, fusion jazz. Then this is fantastic. And if you've got a good setup at home, this will really test your stereo. It's a double bass player, and he reminds me so much of Stanley Clarke, but this is exceptional. Again, stream a couple of tracks, especially Pace, but this is stunning. Jazz album of the year for me. Next is Beast in Black with the album called, just remind myself, Dark Connection. Now I'm a Beast in Black fan. I'm really into this kind of Euro kind of power metal stuff, and this is like it's like Euro pop with heavy metal. If ABBA were kind of mixed in with pure riffage and a metal attack from you know, this is what they'd sound like. It's not a female led band, by the way, but the guy has a voice that is just beyond description. It goes from total falsetto to just total rock, and the melodies are great. It's just great fun. It's one of those rock albums that just makes you smile all the way through. The riffs, you can't second guess them. The choruses go where you would hope they would go to, and they really do. This really is punch the air, throw your head back and shout music, and you know, it's really worth checking out. Beast in Black, great album. Next is another box set that follows the design aspects of Jethro Tull, and it's Fugazi by Marillion. And I will cover this elsewhere, but this has got to be bargain of the year. Literally nearly 6 hours of material on this. And the remix of the original album is fantastic, and you will find if you get this that it takes you ages to get beyond the first disc because it sounds so good. I was one of those people that kind of kept away from Marillion because I just thought they were a Genesis ripoff. My fault. I don't know, other fans, other people who are into this kind of music thought the same. I know Chris Wright, who's a contributor to this channel, said the same thing to me the other day. But that is a great box set, you know, great booklet, and I will do a separate video on that because I know it's being requested, but well worth it. So that's number 22. Number 21 is another box set from Cherry Red, and it's the Rare Bird one, which was called Beautiful Scarlet, which is 6 CDs. And I've done a separate video on this, so I don't need to go into it in much detail. But I just love that kind of 70s Hammond music, and it's just, to me, it's just a magical period that draws me in to a time when actually I was a bit too young for it, and it's a band that I missed out on. But the track Sympathy, which I know many of you will know, even if you think you've never heard of them, is just superb. And Steve Harris from Iron Maiden is also a huge fan, and especially of the album Epic Forest, which is included in here. It's all little gatefold sleeves and stuff. Great prog, great band. So that's Rare Earth, and that is my number 21. At number 20, it's full out heavy metal with Sermons of the Priest by KK's Priest, Sermons of the Sinner rather. And this sold by the boatload, and it's KK Downing proves here just how influential and how important he was to the early Judas Priest sound. How many of us always thought it was kind of KK and Glenn Tipton and Rob Halford, and KK was third in line. You listen to this, you realise he was at the forefront. This is a great, great metal album, and all the guys need to be proud of what they've done here. Fantastic. Staying with the world of hard rock and heavy metal, the next one is the Black Sabbath Technical Ecstasy Super Deluxe Box Set, whereas they dropped the ball with Sabotage. On this one, they picked up the ball and picked up others with it. As you know, I have fondness by the bucket load for this album. I've never understood why some people kind of don't count it as an important part of Black Sabbath's back catalogue. But this is a fantastic box set. Stephen Wilson remixes, the live stuff, the whole thing is well worth it. Fantastic. Next is Omega by Epica. I love symphonic metal. I love all of those bands within Temptation and stuff like that. I just love them. But Epica are probably the ones that sit at the top of the mountain for me, because they are the most authentic. You've got a real soprano voice, real guttural death metal vocals, and great guitar playing, great arrangements that go to places you just don't expect. Some of their albums can be really heavy going. As I said at the start of this video, I like to be challenged. I like to find things that are kind of difficult and give me something new for my ears to kind of, to go with. And this one, I think, is one of my favourites by them. And I've got everything they've ever done. But this, and I've just bought the live one, but this Omega is exceptional. Watch a couple of videos on YouTube or stream it. And again, give you time, your ears to adjust if you're new to this. But to me, it's just fantastic. Next is another ginormous box set, and again, tail end of 2020 perhaps, but I didn't get this till 2021, so that's my excuse. And it is Rock Legends by Thin Lizzy. I've done a video on this, so I don't need to go into too much detail, but I feel like I'm in the room with Thin Lizzy. I'm in the room with the guys, and it really has brought me closer to the band, the personalities. I watched the Phil Lynott documentary on the telly just before Christmas, and it's really made me appreciate just how special Thin Lizzy were. Rock Legends by Thin Lizzy. That's my next one at number 17. At number 16, heading over to America now, with Tedeschi Trucks and Lele Revisited. I love Derek Trucks. I love the stuff his wife puts out as well. I think together they are an exceptional band, as close as you're going to get to the Allman Brothers and that jam kind of approach to music. And as a slide player, I think Derek Trucks is just fantastic. In fact, Derek Trucks, it would be in my top 5 guitarists of all time at the moment. So it'd be Richie Blackmore, Tommy Bolin, Paul Kossoff, Ronnie Montrose, and Derek Trucks probably at the moment. But this is fantastic. They basically run through the Layla album, but put their own spin on it. It's all live. It's double CD. And it just is brilliant music. It's uplifting. It's just fantastic. And they take the music to places that it never went to before, but it feels like it should have gone where it goes with these. These guys take it to another level. I prefer this to the original album. And if some of you think I'm not really into that Layla stuff, you will like this. Give it a spin. Seriously, it's really good. Next is a surprise to some of you perhaps, or maybe not. And it's Rohan Bowman and his second album, which Life by Misadventure. Now, a lot of people preferred his first album, and I like this guy because I think his voice is rich and just dripping in the kind of 70s soulful rock voices. And I know that, this is a new artist, but I think this album, which is, the music is more varied, it's more versatile, but I think his vocal performance is just brilliant. I love voices, how big a fan I am of people like Paul Rodgers. People who kind of really explore or share what's in the human heart in a way that touches you. They're not just making the right sounds to almost like paint by numbers using their voice. To me, there aren't many vocalists who sound vulnerable, who sound like something isn't quite right, or you feel their pain. You really feel it. And I think this guy, Rohan Bowman, has those qualities. So again, challenge your ears, give it a listen. But again, as I said, where is it now? It's at number 15 on my top 30 list. And I said, some of these I might do separate videos for, because there's so much new stuff and there's so much music to talk about, really. So next is Billy Idol and the Roadside EP. Now, my wife has been playing this non-stop, and I bought the previous album, where we come back with Steve Stevens, and this is like a follow-on from that. Is it Kings and Queens of the Underworld? Is one of the tracks. But this is superb. If you don't listen to anything else, listen to Bitter Taste from this album, EP rather, and tell me what you think. I just think lyrically, the performance, his voice, again, someone else whose voice isn't classic. When I say classic, it's not perfect. Like a lot of voices from the 70s, they were unique. As soon as you hear them, it's them, and that they have faults but it makes them more human. To me, it makes me connect more. So that's the Riverside EP by Billy Idol at number 14. At number 13 is something you might expect from me. And it is Deep Purple, Turning to Crime. Again, I've done a video on this, and it's a feel-good album. I wasn't looking forward to it. I was actually thinking I'll just buy it and file it away because I'm a Deep Purple completist. But I've really, really enjoyed it, and it's great to know that lots of you feel the same way. Again, open mind, challenge your ears, but I think this is great. You could think, well, could they have picked different tracks? They picked the tracks they picked, and they sound good. And someone said to me they didn't like my phrase purplising stuff, but they purplised these tracks, and to me it's a great album and a worthy part of the Deep Purple story. So that's number 13. Next is at number 12 is Black Label Society and Doom Crew Inc. Now, I have one other Black Label Society album, and it's got a black cover, and I cannot remember what it's called. I should have revised that, shouldn't I? But the reason I'm saying that is because I'm not a big fan of this band, and lots of people have tried to get me into them, and I love Ozzy Osbourne, and I love Zakk Wylde's guitar playing. I can't remember what made me listen to this, but I was drawn in from the first track, and the guitar riffs are absolutely colossal. This is like proper riffage, really good, and his voice has got elements of Ozzy Osbourne in his delivery, in his vocalizations, and the way he kind of shapes the words. He sounds like Ozzy in places, but it's not all metal. There are some really subtle kind of light and shade, and I just love it. I love every track, and it made me go back and listen to some of the other albums, and they still don't properly click with me. But this, I have played this, so much in the last month, and I just absolutely love it. So again, if you think this isn't for you, give it a go and see what you think. So that's number 12, Doom Crew Inc. by Black Label Society. I'm going to keep referring to my list here because it's so long. But next up, Marmite album, some of you will say. Steven Wilson, I did a video on this, which caused a bit of controversy because I said it's prog, but now we know it. But I played this again yesterday as I made my list up, and I still really like it. It's not Porcupine Tree, but again, I don't feel that things should stay still. You've got to keep moving forwards. You don't want to see almost like an oral photocopy of the previous album. And Steven Wilson, no doubt maybe he will drift back towards Porcupine Tree in the next couple of years, but to me, this is another kind of slightly sinister feel-good album. And those of you who know Steve Wilson know that he does things that are quite macabre in some ways. And I really like it. So it's great stuff. Next up is a box set that first came out in 2017 and was re-released last year, which is Fanfare by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And I wish to thank Raymond, who's one of my patrons, for pointing this out to me, because what this box set made me realise is how much Emerson, Lake and Palmer music means now. I was far too young to appreciate what they were trying to put across when they did it. You know, Keith Emerson's piano concerto from Works, it should be recognised as a fantastic piece of classical music. It's that good. You know, and people kind of look back at this band as being like dinosaurs and, you know, punk swept away. But this box set, as you watch the separate video I did for it, you know, for the £130 odd that you can get it for, it's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. So next up is number 9. So we're into the top 10 now, and it's Paul Stanley's Soul Station record, Now and Then. Paul's voice suits this kind of music, and some of these are originals as well. It suits it so well. If this is where he's heading next, then I bought a ticket. I shall buy whatever they do next. It's a feel-good album, and I've said before, you know, where the world is going through some pretty dark and stressful times at the moment, which behind the scenes is probably affecting everybody, everyone out there and everyone you know. And so, you know, I have felt myself drawn towards music that kind of lifts my spirits and makes me feel motivated to do videos to just dive into life. And this is one of those CDs, records, albums. And you know, you can get it for about 10 quid in the UK. Give it a listen. It isn't Kiss Destroyer by Kiss, but it's Paul Stanley. His mannerisms and his voice are there. There's just joy in his heart. There's joy in the music. He's got the same guitar player he had on his solo stuff, and it's really, really good. And again, the only way to follow that is to go to another album that has completely had me bouncing around the house with joy and in my heart, which has been Liberté by the Doobie Brothers, which I did a short video about this. I think this is their best album for a long time. It sits to me between Cycles and What Were Once Habits. It's that kind of music. Tom Johnson's in fine voice. Pat Simmons is doing his stuff, and you know, highly recommended. Next for something completely different, and I did mention that this would be in my top 10 albums of all time. And where is it? It's sitting at the moment at number 7, and it's Sarah McQuaid and the St. Buryan Sessions. I did a podcast with Sarah, and her guitar playing, her, you know, if you're into John Martin, Nick Drake, her voice, you know, Christine Hirsch, you know, bit of Joni Mitchell, bit of, you know, the deeper kind of soulful voice that she has. But this is Sarah on her own in a church in deepest West Cornwall with just her acoustic guitar or a piano. And the music is just perfect for the times we find ourselves in. It's melancholy, but it's uplifting. It's beautiful. I know that quite a few of you have emailed me, and also I had a message today on YouTube with someone saying you'd bought this on vinyl and how much you're enjoying it. This is a beautiful album. Go to Sarah's Bandcamp page or stream it on Spotify and just listen to it. And the last song, which is called The Last Song, which is about a mom, and the first one, Sweetness and Pain. It's just a beautiful, beautiful album. After that, number 6, we are turning up the amps again, and this is the Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen album, Richie from Winery Dogs and Adrian from Iron Maiden. I've never been a massive Iron Maiden fan, so I kind of steered away from this at first, but then when I heard it, I really loved you know, the riffs and the songs. It's a classic rock album, and I would say that Richie's got more influence than Adrian, unless of course Adrian's just finding freedom to play more in this style of music. But this to me is well worth listening to, and a great rock album, and at a great price at the moment. Next up is one of my favourite bands, and it is Riverside. And I'm going to do a separate video on this because this is a live box set which was available from the fan club. It includes 2 CDs plus a live DVD and Blu-ray plus signed prints and everything. Riverside are one of the best prog bands. They're from Poland. Every album to me is essential. They never repeat themselves. They're always something new and exciting to listen to. And this is just a fantastic package. And it's a band really showing how to connect with your fans. And I just love it. I just adore it. I will be doing a separate video on this. So I don't want to go on too far, too much even. Next is a new band, it is to me, called Mason Hill, Against the Wall. Now, I think that this is a young rock band, you know, keeping the torch going. And for those, you know, those people that think that rock is, you know, the phrase classic rock is a bit like classical music. It kind of defines things as having a beginning and an end, and almost makes it like a museum. And I'm not into that anymore. You know, it's rock music, you know, and for young bands trying to break through, you know, this concept, you know, how can you be classed as a new classic rock band? It doesn't make any sense, does it? You're a rock band. And this band, which I've been playing a hell of a lot, and I will do a cover for them. I'm hoping to talk to them on a podcast this year. The guitar sound, the riffs and the vocals, this is angst-driven music. It still feel good to me, but it's like really, really, you know, in your face. Great guitars, great songs. Give this a listen. You know, this is a, you know, these kids are, you know, the future of, you know, laying down the foundations of the future of rock music. And this is a great album. And I'll be very surprised if tracks like Against the Wall, DNA, Hero, brilliant, absolutely superb. The next one, the rock music just keeps coming now, is the Daisies, Holy Ground with Glenn Hughes. And yes, as we'd expect, anything that Glenn Hughes gets involved in, he basically stamps his personality all over it, and it almost becomes a Glenn Hughes album. I have no problem with that because I'm a huge Glenn Hughes fan. And this is heavy stuff, and Glenn Hughes is in his element. He's in a band, and I know Glenn Hughes, you know, he just pumps out these solo albums left, right and centre, but I think Glenn loves being in a band, and he loves being in this band, and you can tell if you follow him on social media, he's everywhere. But this is a absolutely superb album. I'm now at number 2. Now, I did a short video on this probably almost a year ago, and it is H.E.A.T and H.E.A.T 2, and it's there because I have played this constantly for 12 months. I have other albums by H.E.A.T. They're good, but they're not as good as this. I think it was called H.E.A.T 2 because they were almost like going back to what they thought people wanted, their fans, and they're right. This is melodic rock. If I say it's melodic rock and it's AOR, some of you think, oh, we're going back to Dokken and it's the mid-80s and it's all hair metal. The songs have that calibre, but they're modern. The choruses, as I said earlier in this video, they're kind of band that the choruses go where you want them to, but how they get there is not how you expected them to perhaps do that. So there's a huge level of originality. They're from Sweden. So many bands are from Sweden now who are really, really good. But this is classic AOR. This album, you put this in your car, you'll get there, you'll get wherever you're going twice as fast as you thought you would. It will make you feel good. It will get you again. You'll just want to thump and punch the air and sing at the top of your voice. Absolutely brilliant. You know, one of the best rock albums I've heard for a long time. So that brings me to my number 1 purchase of last year. And I said at the start, it's music I've either played it a lot or it's challenged me. This has challenged me as well as being impressive, and it's the Graaf Generator Box Set, which there is a separate video for. It's challenged me because even at the time I wasn't sure I liked Graaf Generator. I'd got a couple of albums by them. I didn't quite understand it. It was complex, it was deep, it was dark. There was less guitars and more things that people blew into. But this box set has shown me a world. It's like getting into a spaceship and being given a totally different world to explore and be around. And I'm still finding things in here that I didn't know existed in respect to the musical landscape that I thought I knew and knew so well. So I think it's disappearing fast if you're into progressive rock or want to find out more about the big bands from the 70s, although Van der Graaf Generator were always marginalised in some ways and being mysterious from the big names in prog. But this is my number one reissue box set of 2021. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I shall put a list of all these albums underneath the description on the YouTube channel and on the Now Spinning website. And I want to thank you all so much for watching and for supporting me and ringing that little bell and commenting. You know, it's great to talk to you all. And if you want to know more, if you want to support me to do more videos, then become a patron. All the details for that are below as well. But thank you all so much, and I shall see you on my next video.